Um, so welcome, Mara. It is fantastic to have you with us today. We're very excited to have this chat with you. We have watched your TED Talk video. We've learned about Growing Up Boulder and what you have done, and it's so exciting how it fits in and sort of with what we're trying to do as part of the Dunedin 2040 project. So when I came up with the idea for this project last year, we had no idea about Growing Up Boulder. And when we were creating the website and resources, and I came across your talk, and it was so inspiring. I thought we have to share this with our students so they can see what is possible. So today, we're very privileged to have you with us to learn what you have been doing since and some of the things and how you've involved students and our children as part of that urban planning process and making perhaps their dreams and visions become real. So again, thank you for that. I'm going to hand it over to you now so that you can chat with our students. What we'll do is Mara will share some stuff with us, and then we've come up with some questions that we'd like to ask you. So after you've shared, we'll go through some questions and do that too. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Mara.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Iain. And it is so great to see all of you. I visited New Zealand a number of years ago. I actually lived in Australia a few different times, so we got to visit New Zealand on our way, and it holds a very special place in my heart. So it's exciting to see all of you, and I thought you might enjoy seeing some of the photos of what's happened. You all watched the TEDx talk, and you saw that the kids had worked on developing that area. I wanted to show you some photos of what it's looked like since kids gave input to the civic area, and also show you just a few slides of exciting projects we've done, and then I want to turn it over to you. So I'm just going to attempt to share my screen here.
Oh, I might have to just do that.
Yes.
There you go. Try that now.
Aha. Okay, there we go. So now let's try this. Now it's been a little while since I should be able to do it though. Bear with me for a second. And let us go to, I have to move this around. And it's mostly visuals that I'm going to show you because that's really the most fun. Okay, so I wanted to show you, can you see it here? Thumbs up
we
if you
can see that. Great. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, excellent. So this is a project that has been ongoing for several years. It's called Sumac Avenue. And what we did was we interviewed children and their parents, so all different ages, to find out how are they getting to school? Are they walking? Are they biking? Are they driving? Are they taking the bus? And if they're walking and biking, what are the problems they're encountering? And so we actually took these photos and then we took quotes from them, put the quotes at the bottom and put them up publicly. So not just the kids, but everyone could benefit from what the kids had to share. And so their feedback is actually helping design the transportation system in that area. Because I saw that transportation is one of the things you're all working on. Okay, this I'm gonna show you. So we worked on what's called a sub-community plan, which is a lot of big words, but basically saying, how do you want this big neighborhood to develop over the next 20 years? And so this is a picture of second grade students really digging into what they think should be in their community as it grows, so that when they're grown-ups in that same place, they've helped design that community, just like what you guys are doing. And if you see, they're using maps there, and I want to show you what those maps are. Oh, why is it not letting me do the next one? Oh, this is, before I get to the other maps, this is a giant map. Raise your hand if this looks like fun to you, to step on a gigantic map of where you live. I know I really had fun doing it, and the kids could put giant stickers on, and the map was almost like a carpet. And so they were actually looking at their community and giving feedback by walking on top of their community. Now what I want to show you is last year we developed our country's first child-friendly city map that was printed. And this is a map that was created with 700 children and families. Half of the kids were from underrepresented backgrounds, so they either were immigrants to our country, maybe English wasn't their first language, kids with disabilities. and they all helped us create what were their favorite places to go in Boulder. And then we gave that map out to every kid who lived in our city for free. And it's in Spanish and English because we have a lot of Spanish speakers where we live. And we also created a digital version of it. And this is something you could all easily do. This is just using Google Maps, so it's all free software. And based on all the feedback we got from those 700 children and parents, we then created their favorite spots on there. And then we have kids' pictures because they've drawn us great pictures of it. So if you click on some of the playgrounds or some of the schools or the library, you'll actually see a kid's view of what that looks like, along with the kids' recommendations for why you should visit there. And we also did the same thing with teenagers, so we wanted to hear from them about what they thought. And they did a digital map. Now this, I don't know if you remember from the TEDx talk, I talked about Boulder Creek. Well, this is what it looks like after it was designed. And you can see now, look, people are hanging out by the water. They didn't always used to go in when the water was flowing that quickly because it wasn't safe. But there are some areas there that are safer now, and little kids can go play, families can hang out there. There are a lot of seating areas, and they put a lot of native plants back in to restore the habitat. And look, do you remember the kids wanted to have separated biking and walking paths? Well, if you can see the tan color, now they're not sticking to it fully, but the tan color is for walking. And then that lighter gray color with the dotted line is for bikers. And so it's what the kids had requested, separated biking and walking paths. And this is the kids going back several years later to the site to revisit it and give their feedback when it was the grand opening. And 100% of the returning kids said it was important for them to be included in the project and ask for their opinions. Oops, and then this other one is, there's a lot of water and sand play at the area that the kids had requested, so this is an example of it. It's actually my daughter on the left there when she was younger. And then I guess maybe the last one. So, you know, Iain had said, well, what about really younger kids? How could they be involved? Well, this is a toddler. He has a GoPro on his head. And they were doing transportation master planning, and they said, what's the world like from a toddler's perspective? So we actually have the toddler taking videos of what it's like to be only a meter tall and to be trying to explore an area and see the cars going past you quickly. Finally, I want to show you, during COVID times for us, we've been collecting young people's experiences and really trying to share with others what it's like from their perspective. One last thing. This is a technique we use that you might want to use. It's very easy to do. It's called Place It by an urban planner named James Rojas. And basically, you take all sorts of found objects. You go to your local thrift store. I forget what you don't call it a thrift store there. You call it something else. Arc shop? No.
Yeah, like a discount shop or a $2 shop kind of thing. And you can get all sorts of little bits and pieces from them.
Yes, but also the place that where people donate things to.
Oh, yes, like a thrift shop or something.
Or an op shop.
Or an op shop. That's the one.
I knew there was another word for it. Anyway, he collects all these things and then asks the kids or the parents to build their ideal play space or their ideal housing community. And based on what they build, you take notes on it, and that's how we get feedback from all ages, and it's a lot of fun. So that's just a quick overview of some pictures. We can end the screen share, either you or I, once I figure out how. And
do that for you. Here we go.
Okay, excellent.
There we go.
And I would love to take questions in whatever way, Iain, you think is best to facilitate it.
Well, I know that Kate sent through some questions. There we go. There's Kate. So I'm going to unmute your class. And would you like to pick one of your questions to share? Now, I know that quite a few of us have come up with questions.
I ask one of the questions from your son. Liv, come forward. Come on up. We unmuted. There we go.
Yes, you're good to go.
Okay. Wonderful. Yep. Okay. How long did it take to finish the project? Like build everything?
Are you talking about the Civic Area project, the one I showed in those pictures there? Okay,
Yeah.
so the planning for it started in 2012, and the planning went all the way through maybe 2017, so it took 5 years of planning. Then after the planning happened, it took maybe a year and a half or 2 years to actually build it. They had to raise taxes to help fund it, and then they had to hire contractors. So you can imagine some of the kids, one of the kids who started working with us was 4 years old when she started giving her input to it. By the time it was built, I think she was about 10 years old, 10 or 11. This is a long time, right?
Mm.
Great question.
Good question. Okay, Kate, have you got another question from your class, please? And then we might move to another class.
We've got about 4 questions.
Yes, okay.
So what was like the best and the most innovative idea that you heard from one of the children?
One of the ideas I loved was the kids wanted to create, they wanted to create an animal slide at that civic area, and then underneath, like, so it was going to be in the shape of like an elephant, and you could slide down the elephant's trunk, and then underneath it in the body part, you would open it up and have a little reading nook where you could have beanbag chairs and kind of take a book from the library and read there. But truly, I mean, the kids amaze me every day with their creativity. We just worked on a project where kids gave us input to a new library, and there are a lot of people who don't have houses where we live, which is really a very hard situation, and they don't have enough to eat. And so the kids said, why don't we create a community garden outside the library? The kids can help harvest the food and then help donate it to the local food pantry down the street, so that we're giving back to our own community. And I thought that was brilliant.
Neat. That is fantastic. All right, so you've got 2 more questions there. So next.
Why are you trusting children to create cities? Like, change it, I guess.
Well, it's the same reason I trust anyone to build a city, right? We're all part of it. We're all living in it. And kids have a really unique perspective. And I think we all have something to share, right? Like, if you're going to be living there, you have a right to help design it. Now, do I think any one person has all the answers? No. And do I think we all have to compromise? Absolutely. But that includes adults too. One other beautiful thing I found is adults are a lot better at behaving themselves and being on good behavior when kids are around. So, you know, sometimes when adults are in a meeting together, they can start shouting at each other and really being kind of mean and rude. When I've seen the kids are there, they actually start to listen. And the kids listen in turn to the adults. And I think that's really useful for all of us.
Very good.
Do you agree with that? What do you think?
Yeah. Do you think children are...
I was just going to say, if you guys come up, if you can give me your name, then I just, it feels like...
That's right. Introduce yourself as you come up. So who have we got here?
I'm Georgia.
Hi, Georgia.
Okay.
Do you think children should have more opportunities over the world designing cities?
Absolutely. I absolutely think children should be included in the process for designing cities, because when we start listening to a lot of the needs that kids have, it turns out that actually helps the rest of us too. So for example, we hear from kids a lot that you feel like the cars are going past you too quickly when you're on your bike, or you don't feel safe biking or walking because the cars take up so much space on the roads. If we actually started listening to what kids were saying and saying, give us protected bike lanes, give us safe ways to get to school where we don't have to depend upon an adult driving us every day, but we can take more responsibility. I actually think that would be better for the kids and for the parents to not have to be driving the kids every day. I think it benefits all of us.
Great question, Georgia. Thank you for that. Right, so I think we're ready to go to another class. We might be able to come back to room 15, but is there another class that would like to share? So maybe if I go down to Mackenzie Bay School, just down the way here, and see if there's a question here. So I'm just going to unmute you guys and see if we have a question. Is that unmuting? There we go. All right. Hello there at McAndrew Bay. Do you have a question for Mara, or maybe two questions? So remember, if you do, just come up and introduce yourself to Mara, say your name, and then ask your question.
Hi, my name is Fran, and I was wondering where the idea for this project came from. Like, where did this start from?
Great question, Fran. So I was lucky in that when I moved to the town that I live in now, Boulder, Colorado, it turns out that we had a brand new director of planning for the city. And a planning director is the person who leads the city in thinking about housing and streets and really how should the physical layout be for the city. And he just happened to have written a book on youth participation in planning. It was very lucky. We also happen to have professors at the university who worked on that. And I was talking to people. I had run lots of programs for kids and families. And I also had my own little girl. And I was talking to them and I said, I want to run that. I want to create, they had this idea of a child-friendly city initiative. And I said, can I do that for Boulder? And they said, go for it. We have no money. Feel free to volunteer your time. But it's so exciting to me. And I just cared about it so much that I said, well, let's see what we can do. And we started really small. And over time, because we could show the benefit of kids' input and how we were working, more and more city departments came to us and said, will you work with us? To the point that now we have to turn people away, which is a great problem.
Neat. Thank you, Fran. That was great. Do we have another question from McAndrew Bay School?
Come on up. Sorry, mate. Oh, we can't see you. Hang on. Come this way, honey. So that's we're not looking into the dark. Okay.
My name's Maeve, and I was wondering, what's your favourite part about working with kids?
I love working with big kids because, first of all, they surprise me all the time. I never know what ideas they're going to come up with. And I also just love their energy. I love the creativity. I love the colors that kids use. And I also like seeing that sort of light bulb go on in a kid's head where they say, wait a minute, I actually have a voice. Like, what I'm saying matters. And not only does it matter now, but I need to keep sharing my voice throughout my whole lifetime, no matter how old or young I am, no matter my background. It doesn't matter if I speak the main language of the place I live. I need to find a way to be able to share my ideas. And that means we're making citizens for life. So I find it really exciting.
All right. Do we have another question, Mrs. Ward?
Roya, come on up, Roy. I didn't get my camera plugged in properly. I've got a sore arm holding my laptop up.
My name's Roy, and where did you get your inspiration from to do this project?
Oh, I sort of had that one.
Ask me another, or is there something that...
Have you got another question there, Roy?
You had that stuck in your brain, didn't you?
No, Roy, I have a question for you. Will you tell me one of the ideas that you've come up with, just briefly, as you've been exploring the Dunedin 2040?
Put more traps around like the bushy area because a lot of native birds that live around there.
Like put more traps, did you say?
So they're trying to get rid of predators so that the native birds have got an opportunity to come back.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Roy. All right. Okay, so shall we move to another class? Or have you got another question there, Mrs. Ward? Oh, just there. All right.
I think we're all good.
We're all good.
Very good. UK. Okay, in that case, we might head to Mr. Owen's class in here. So we'll just unmute you guys. And I can see, there you go, a big wave to Mr. Owen's class. And I think you've got Mr. Bates's class there too as well. So do you have a question for us, Mr. Owen, from one of the students?
Yeah, yes, hi Mara. Yeah, I've got Sam who's going to come up.
Thank
So I
you.
had to crash. I'm 6'7", so I was too tall just then. I've just come down. Sam's going to come up.
Right, Sam, come on down.
Hi. What was the craziest idea that one of the kids has told you?
I've heard a bunch of them, Sam, but one of them was kids wanted to jump out of they wanted something that would allow you to jump out of a parachute into like a pond below. This was when we were making a teen-friendly park idea. So I said, well, I'm not sure that we can have people jumping out of planes or, parachuting down, but I hear the need for some thrill. So what other things do we have? And so we thought about, are there trampolines that could be sort of built into the ground? Are there really tall climbing structures? Are there flying foxes? Like, there are other things that can still generate that kind of drop in your stomach feeling that we could probably build in a park more realistically.
Thanks for that question, Sam. Is there another question from room 5?
Do you face any challenges while asking kids to build?
Cool. Good question. Can you introduce yourself just to let Mara know who asked the question?
I'm Iris.
Thanks,
Okay.
Iris.
So, the challenges are less with the kids and more with trying to actually get the kids' ideas across the finish line. So something that happened in maybe 2 years ago or so, the kids had a brilliant idea. There's a man-made lake, but it's been that way for about 100 years. And it has lots of wildlife. And so they were updating the area around the lake. And so kids really wanted a shade structure so they could sit and watch the animals. They wanted a boardwalk to be able to kind of walk out and look closer at the tadpoles and maybe catch the tadpoles with a fishing net. Well, the city was planning to implement that, and the neighbors went crazy. They said, it's gonna obstruct our views. We can't allow that to happen. You're gonna ruin the nature there. Of course, the idea was to let the kids experience nature. It was so controversial that they ended up sort of putting the plans aside and putting the whole project on hold. I'm not even sure what's happening right now, but who knew that kids' ideas could be so controversial? It turns out kids are just like anyone else, and they're going to be people who support their ideas and people who don't. And the key is that we need to just keep sharing why we believe what we believe and then being a part of those discussions.
Right, thanks Iris for that question. Is there one more question from room 5?
Yeah, Benny. Come right up, say your name, Benny. Introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Benny. How much did it cost to pay for the whole thing?
How much did it cost? Are you talking about at the Civic Area?
I think
space?
so, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was about $8 million to rebuild that space there. And that's really part of it. It's not even there's a whole section that could be redone. So you can see why it takes so long to make these ideas happen, because first they had to raise the money from the community to say, are you willing to pay for it? And people voted to say, yes, we want to tax ourselves to have a place that we love. And that's what happened. And it's used all the time now, or was pre-COVID. It's still used because it's outdoors.
Neat. Okay, thanks Benny for that question. That's really good. What I'm going to do is see if we can go over to St. Bridget's School up here. So I'm just going to unmute you guys. Hello, good morning, St. Bridget's School. How are we today? Do you have a question for Mara? Wave here. Right. All right, I'll let you think about that. I might just go to another one. So you have to think about a question, and then we'll come back to you. All right, so we might head up to room 9. Good morning, room 9. Big wave to you guys. Do you have a question for Mara?
Olivia's got one, sorry.
Olivia, okay, come on down, Olivia, and ask your question.
Hello. I'm Olivia. How many kids have done something such as Candyland or something like that?
Do you remember the Candyland example in my video? That was actually drawn by my daughter, because every time I'd ask her what her park should be, she'd always draw Candyland. And she's not the only one. I definitely have seen that a lot. And my thought is, I think at some point, why not? We could draw it. We could do Candyland, right? There could be some sort of theme behind some of the equipment in a different place, or even public art that could embody some of that. So I don't see why that's not possible. In Germany, there's a town called Regensburg in Germany that you can look up. And they've done these amazing playgrounds where kids have worked with architects, landscape architects, and together designed the play structures. And it looks just like what the kids drew. Oops. Uh-oh.
That's great. Yeah, because one of our issues in the areas that we're looking at is making a vibrant central city, and part of that is having spaces that, you know, kids can play in, like playgrounds. So yeah, I bet a few of us might be, in fact I might be going to go and look those up very shortly and have a look at them. Just going to head back here to St. Bridget's, so we'll just mute you guys in room 9. And we'll unmute you. There we go. Hello, St. Bridget's. Good morning. I can see we've got some people there. Would you like to introduce yourself to Mara and ask your question, please?
Oops, I can't hear
I can't hear you guys either. So I'm not sure what's happening there. You can certainly see the thumbs up.
That's better.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, my name's Jack. How did you get the idea of working with kids?
Well, you know, I've always loved to work with kids since my first job when I finished university. And all throughout the time, I've really thought that kids have had a lot to say. And also, I'm curious to hear when I became a parent, I was especially interested in hearing from kids. And I just wanted to add on to something before when we were talking about playgrounds. You know, one thing that I know is that kids don't just play on playgrounds. Kids play wherever you are. That's what being a kid is. And so there's a really cool organization in the United States called Kaboom. And what they do is they have something called the Play Everywhere movement, where they're trying to incorporate play into places. Because raise your hand if you've ever been waiting at a bus stop or gone to the grocery store and you found it really boring. Raise your hand if you ever found waiting somewhere. Oh my gosh, okay, it's everyone, right? But what you could do is they can actually embed interesting things into all the places kids already are going with their caregivers. And so I really love that idea. So I encourage all of you, as you think about Dunedin 2040, don't just think about playgrounds. Where can you embed what you love and what you value in things that you do every day?
It's a great concept. That's something that, yeah, we'd definitely like to look at. Do you have another question there at St. Bridget's? Okay, next question.
My name's Chloe, and my question is, are the playgrounds eco-friendly?
Oh, are they eco-friendly? That is such a good question. You know, I think some are more than others. It's certainly very possible to do that. And where we live in Boulder, they do a lot of very eco-friendly things. One of the things they've started doing is really looking at the spaces around the playground. So what kind of plants are there? What are they doing with the water, right? I saw you're looking at green infrastructure. When it rains, where does that water go? Can it actually be put back into the earth in a helpful way? And is there a way to bring back the habitat for the animals and birds that are native to that area? I think some of our playgrounds have more natural materials than others. There's something called nature play that's really become popular, and so a lot of our playgrounds have more of that on it now. But I think there's always more we can be doing. Oh, they also don't use pesticides in the grasses around it. Our city does not use any toxic pesticides, which is quite lovely.
Great, thanks Chloe for that question. Have we got one more question from St. Bridget? Here we go.
My name's Steve. What's the hardest thing with working with kids?
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things is, let me just think for a second. Well, one thing that's hard is if we don't have a lot of time to work with kids. I don't like rushing the process because I think all of us need inspiration from outside of what we already know. So if we're only to work for a really short time with kids, I feel like then we don't get to say to them, you might not have even thought of this idea because you've only been alive for 10 years, right? You're only 10 years old, and you didn't even know there was this other possibility. You only knew this way of doing things because that's all you've seen. So I do find a short time frame hard, and I also find it hard that city projects take so long. And so what I found hard was that when we went back and tried to find those kids who worked on the civic area 6 years later, it was really hard to find the kids because their email addresses had changed, their phone numbers had changed. I didn't know what school they went to. And so you guys grew up pretty quickly, so it's hard for us to keep up with all of you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we've got 4 more questions from room 15. So I'm just going to go back to them. Where are we? There we go. All right, hello there. Oh, do you want to say that again?
Hi, my name is Hazel. It was great meeting you. And my question is, if we could do this in Dunedin, how would we do it?
Well, I think, hi Hazel, nice to meet you. I think that you start small, and you also start with what, actually, let me put aside the start small, because you already have your whole city working on this. Figure out what you're passionate about, what really speaks to you and matters to you, because I can guarantee that your best projects are going to be on things that really matter to you. And when you can think about your own experiences in your own day-to-day life and how whatever changes you're proposing can influence them, then your project's going to be really awesome.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
Right, okay, who's next from room 15?
I'm Amy, and I just want, my question is, did the kids get to participate in any bit, as in the building part of it? Did they get to paint anything or something like that?
Right. So I'm trying to think if there are some projects. A lot of the projects we've done, the kids have not gotten to create their own piece, except I'll give you an example of one where they did. And I want to say there are a lot of projects around the world where kids actually do co-create the final product, and I think those are the best, actually. One thing we did with year 2 students is they gave input to how to make one of our bus systems more kid-friendly. The bus system is called the Hop, like a bunny, because the mascot is a bunny. And so the kids designed murals that went up in every bus, every Hop bus, that had kids have to find how many bunnies there were in their drawing. You had to count the hidden bunnies. And the goal was, the kids said, it's so boring riding the bus. We want something to make it more fun while we're on the bus. And so those playful murals were put on all the buses for many months. And they were designed by the kids. And I will say too, they also installed a bench that the kids had requested, and then have a little plaque on the back of it saying it's dedicated to the kids who, whose feet got tired and requested a bench.
Great. All right. Okay, next question, room 15.
Hi, my name is Kira, and I was wondering if you think that roof gardens would be a good idea for the green infrastructure?
I think roof gardens, Kara, are a great idea, and we've had kids suggest them before when we were working on dense, sustainable, affordable housing. The kids designed just beautiful roof gardens to capture the rainwater. So I think it's totally doable. Every year, I think the technology gets easier, and there's some great examples. I don't know if you have a lot of examples where you are in New Zealand, but I've seen a lot of them in Sweden and other places where most of the roofs in certain cities are green roofs.
Neat question, Kira. Thank you very much. Have we got one more question, I think, from room 15? Here we go.
Hi, I'm Olivia, and my question is, what if all of our ideas are too out there and too dangerous?
Well, first of all, I'd say don't underestimate what's possible. And if they are too out there and too dangerous, let the adults come and chat with you about what's realistic and what isn't and why. Because sometimes you can get to a place that can work for both sides, right? For the adults who have to implement the ideas and for the kids to say, yes, this is what I'm thinking. And I also think, you know, when we push kids a little bit more, they often know what's too dangerous. We'll start with letting them kind of have wild ideas, and we give a lot of space for that. But then as we narrow into reality, I think kids are actually pretty good at knowing what is more realistic or not. But I think you have to start by dreaming big and then see what's possible. Maybe you'll come up with something we haven't thought of before.
Great. Thank you, Olivia. That was great. I'm just going to head back for our last question, I think, for today from room 9. Here we go. So we'll unmute you guys today. So hello again, room 9. We have a question.
Sorry, I've got Caleb coming up. He's got a little bit of stage fright. He's got a bit shy, but Caleb had a question. What was it? You can say it from there.
Okay. How many people were involved in the planning?
Okay, and Caleb, do you mean in general in our work, or do you mean for the Civic Area project?
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
So no, you go, Mark.
No, okay. The question was, are you talking about the Civic Area project, the one I showed in the TEDx thing, or do you mean in general how many people work on Growing Up Boulder?
I don't know, Ms. Could you just told me to say this question.
And the project.
On the Civic Area. Well, so like, for example, the Civic Area one, literally hundreds of people worked on it. Now, when you ask how many kids worked on it, it was 250 kids over several different years. But the city kept going back to the community, adults and kids, saying, is this what you want? Is this what you want? And kind of refining it throughout the time. And then there were lots of planners involved. There were attorneys involved for writing the proposal for our ballot initiative to see if we could pay taxes for it. So these are big projects with lots of people.
Right.
And for Growing Up Boulder, I was just going to say, for Growing Up Boulder, there's literally only myself and my colleague, and we only work half-time. And we have some students who work with us who change every semester. So we're a very small team.
Neat. Okay, I've just had McAndrew Bay ask if they can have another question too, please. So of course they can. So we're just going to head on back to you guys, and there you go.
Hi, I'm Rosa. Is this what you plan to do in university? Like, is this what you wanted to do when you were older? What did you study?
Such a good question, Rosa. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I got older. I knew, except here's one thing that I did know. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to make our world a better place. I didn't really know what that was going to look like. And throughout the beginning of my career, I created a lot of programs for children whose families don't have a lot of money. And so I worked on that. And then I went back to school, to university, to say, how can I help organizations that support children and families? How can I help them work better and do their work better? But I ended up coming back to this. And so my career advice to all of you is, you never know what direction you're going to take. If you just keep sort of talking with as many people as you can and seeing what's out there. A lot of the jobs that people have don't have a good name to them. So keep investigating for what works for you as you get older.
Great. Awesome question. Now, I saw there was a little bit extra in your question there, Rosa, because you were going to ask Mara what she had to study to get to do what she's doing now today. So could you follow on and let us know what you did when you went through school?
Yeah, so, and it may be a little different in New Zealand. In the US, our system is actually pretty open, the liberal arts curriculum. So I went to university and I studied psychology. And then I worked for a few years and got a master's in organizational psychology. But if I were to do it again, there are a few different ways I could do it. I could have studied social work. I could have studied education. I could have done urban planning. I could have done architecture, public health. There are a lot of different ways to end up in the same place. And that's what I've realized along the way, is that there's not one right path to do it.
Great, thank you very much for that. So I think we've had our questions from all our students today, and they've, I've been looking at the chat in there too, and there's been lots of people saying that it's been really great. So I see that some Bridgets have had to go, and they're doing a playground survey, so they're off to do that. But we've really loved hearing from you today and being able to chat and ask questions and see what you have been doing, and particularly what you've been doing with kids, and to see a little bit of what's possible and some different perspectives on things there too. And I know I've got lots that I want to go away and look up and explore from this session, and I'm sure it's given inspiration to lots of our students here too, and to more as they'll get to see the recording later on. So on behalf of us all, I'd like to say thank you and ka kite. And we look forward to perhaps showing you some of the things that we get to at the end of our project, towards when we get our exhibition. We might be able to send you through some photos of some of the things that we've created, and some information on what might happen from there. So again, thank you very much. Could we give Mara a big wave and clap? Here we go. I'll just unmute you guys so we can just do that. There we go.